All right, what's happening, artists, art enthusiasts, art fans? How's it going, everybody? My name is Eben, and welcome to this Sunday's live stream art demonstration here. And so today, I actually had somebody asking about, how I take a painting from a earlier phase, kind of like after you've completed the underpainting. To something a bit more detailed, like what we see here. And this could definitely be taken a little bit further, but this is actually a more refined version of the piece I did for my live stream a little while back. Actually, at the time I had it as a square canvas, but I expanded it out. And you can see the difference between these two pieces. There's just a lot more refinement. There's not necessarily more detail throughout, but this is kind of the stuff I want to go over today, is sort of how you can take your painting from sort of a more rough underpainting or sketch phase and bring it into something a bit more refined. And actually, I went ahead and I dug up this old piece from the folders in my computer here. This is from probably 2 or 3 years ago. I was doing this series with all these different types of dragons in different environments, and this is just one that didn't quite make the cut at the time, and I started it and I think I just got sort of sidetracked, and as you can see here, I went into a bit too much detail on this right side here, and so I actually thought it would be kind of cool to take this piece and use some of those same principles to just sort of improve it generally, and then two, to just sort of bring it into more of a finished, more refined, detailed stage. And we're going to talk about as well some of the mistakes I made with this piece and some of the things that are working well for it, which is kind of why I selected it. The composition isn't terrible. There's a lot of work that needs to be done here, but overall I really like the sort of circular kind of spiral flow we have here, sort of like almost a Fibonacci composition here. But anyway, I think that's what I'm going to do today. And of course, if you have any suggestions about what you want to see as far as how this piece is developed from here, feel free to drop a comment there in the chat. And of course, if you're just joining us for the first time, please hit that subscribe button and the bell next to it, so you don't miss videos I release every Wednesday, as well as these live streams every Sunday. So awesome. Welcome everybody. Welcome Vieira, and welcome Keldar. No under yes, I had a lot of different requests for content here today, so unfortunately I can't get to them all. I'm putting them all on a list though. There was a request for an underwater scene from Vieira here, as well as Nick wanted to do a battle scene, which he acknowledged was a little ambitious for a 2-hour stream, but actually, it might be possible. They're all going on the list. We're gonna get to those at some point. Of course, I always take people's requests into consideration when I'm doing this stuff. So keep those requests coming, and we'll make it happen. So yeah, let's take a look at this piece here. Oh, actually, before I do, I just wanted to address another question I got from someone in the Discord channel, actually, which I think is important for everybody who's thinking about pursuing art as a career. And they were asking about where they live. They live in India, and they're wondering, like, there isn't a huge art scene there, or artists aren't really well supported or anything like that. And they want to be a professional artist. They want to create concept art or do illustration or something like that, but they're just not in a good place for it. And my answer to that is actually the great thing about working digitally, and the great thing about sort of the global art marketplace now, is you can work from anywhere. And if you have the skill set, if you have a good portfolio, and you are you're getting your skills up, you're putting your work out there, as long as you have an internet connection and you're working on your skills, you can actually just get work from anywhere, no matter where you are. And actually, if you live in a place where the cost of living is lower, for example, than it is here in the US, or specifically where I am in Vermont, where it's actually quite high, you would actually be better off than I am, because you can basically have a lower cost of living, but sort of charge, you know, the same amount for clients like that you get in the US or something. So it's important to consider, especially, and it's something I'm thinking about a lot these days, because I don't necessarily need to be where I am, and I actually pay quite a bit to be here. And so, you know, doing this kind of work would actually be much more profitable somewhere else in the world. Of course, I really like it here in Vermont, and of course it's a beautiful day here, and I love that. But it's just something to consider too, if you're considering going into an art career, and actually that you may have more of a competitive edge if you live somewhere else outside of the U.S. Actually, from what I've gathered, you know, artists in the U.S. actually, you know, have trouble getting clients as much in the rest of the world, because other artists that have a lower cost of living can afford to charge less. So it's an interesting dynamic there. But anyway, I just wanted to address that quickly before I dive in here. And you know, of course, if any of you have any other questions about, you know, making art or pursuing art as a career, feel free to let me know as well. And looks like we got some more people filing in here. Welcome, Inez and Wurzel and Elvie. Welcome. I'm glad you think this looks amazing. This is actually a piece from a few years ago that I kind of want to do like kind of a home makeover here, except we're gonna do it with a painting, and I want to bring this into you know, a bit of a finished state, and sort of revise a lot of the, you know, I don't want to say mistakes per se, but the, you know, the things that can be improved with this painting that I didn't acknowledge before. Alright, so actually, this is funny, I'm just digging up this old PSD, so I have a bunch of different layers here. This was actually how I often worked back when I was creating this piece, is I would kind of build it up in these different layers according to foreground and midground and so on. And I actually don't do that much anymore. And, you know, the reason for that is I think, you know, could have been part of the reason why this piece ended up not sort of working out for me, is because it just sort of overcomplicates things a little bit. And for me personally, and as I say often, it's totally up to you and your art style. If you want to make 100 layers, that's totally fine. For me, it just becomes quite a bit to manage. I think it's Jordan Grimmer, who does some really great YouTube stuff and has some really great artwork. You should go check his stuff out. But I think he works, you know, like piling on layers throughout the process, and I'm not entirely sure how that works. But anyway, I kind of abandoned this strategy a little while ago, and so I'm actually going to just I'm just going to go ahead and merge all of these down, and then if we want to create some new layers later on, we can do that. And another thing I was doing back then was sort of this, you know, it was pretty much like a 24 by 18 inch canvas here, because I was trying to make a lot of prints. And you know, I still do that, but I don't necessarily cater to the print sizes so much anymore. And I almost feel like this would be better as a wider canvas, especially since that dragon there is it's very close to the center of the frame. I think I just want to pull it a little bit over to the side here. And actually, one thing we can do is with that is we can take the this black space here, and we can use our handy dandy content aware fill, and we can see if that's going to work for us here. Just to kind of get the ball rolling on that extra space there. Maybe we can think of something else to use this space for. But as you can see, with what I just did, and even before what I just did there, this space is so busy and complex, and this is something I just wasn't getting at the time. You know, I kind of understood that you wanted to have sort of a sharper, more detailed focal point, which I sort of did here, but I really went into all these unnecessary details and variations in complexity and different values here that, like, it's just distracting and overwhelming for the eye. So we're actually gonna just go through here and just simplify a lot of this. And there are some actually, I don't know what the resolution, yeah, this resolution is a bit high. for what we need to be doing here today, I'm going to drop this to 3000 width, just to give my brushes a little bit of a break here. Awesome, that's a little bit better. So yeah, I'm going to just try to simplify all this into some basic shapes here. You know, there's some nice detail here and there, but a lot of this is just pretty unnecessary. And I like the flow here. I want to kind of capitalize on that flow with some larger brush strokes. Yeah, I mean this piece really has some potential, I think. We're just gonna I'm gonna do a little bit of work on this composition here. Welcome, Jose and Sabrina. How's it going, guys? Got a lot of people from the Discord channel here, which is really nice. If you haven't checked that out yet, there's a link in the description below, I believe. And that's just really fun. We kind of chat about art and share our work there. It's just really casual, low-key, kind of small group. But it's been really nice having that over the past I don't know, couple months or so. This is a nice green. I kind of want to incorporate that in a little bit here. We can use that saturated green actually to draw more attention to this area. And then, you know, the other thing that's really kind of bugging me with this piece here is there's not really like much diversity in terms of color. It's very kind of monochromatic and green, which is, you know, it's a mood. It's not necessarily the mood I want to go for with this piece. So I'm actually I want to incorporate some nice blues in here and maybe give this more of an analogous sort of color scheme here, and also this corner here, this all needs to be simplified, and let's bring in some new colors here as well. Get some nice perspective here. And this is, you know, I'm realizing now, like, the difference between how I would have approached this when I created it years ago and how I approach things now, is it would have killed me to just like take a big brush stroke and go over it like that, because I was just, you know, I was stuck on this idea of like, just because I invested a bunch of time into a section, or like I create a lot of details that made it important or like worthy of keeping, and that's just not how it is. You know, at any time, if something isn't working, you should be able to you know, to go in there and just paint right over it. So I'm also creating a little bit of perspective here as well. And I'm thinking about my overall shapes here. I'm looking in that navigator. I'm going to have this curve back a little bit. Actually, maybe what we can do is we can copy and paste this and select all of this. Maybe we'll kind of scrunch it in. So let's do our warp tool. I really want to exaggerate this perspective. Just kind of bringing everything in a little bit, allowing the edges of the canvas, all this area back here, to really be our framing. And that's, you know, one thing that, you know, a mistake I see in a lot of beginner artworks and with students I work with in the mentorship program is, you know, they don't utilize this like outer, it's pretty much almost like half of the canvas. It's this border that goes all the way around. They try to fill the whole canvas with all their important details, and they forget to frame it properly. So, you know, we really want to reserve most of this, you know, the outside edge of this frame for these larger perspective shapes that are going to really help to create some focus and help to guide the eye in. It's funny, I'm just like I'm like doing I'm treating myself as a student here. I'm treating my past self as a student, which is kind of funny. But it's good to know that I've learned a few things. It would be I guess it would be pretty bad if I went back to a piece that I created 3 years ago and I couldn't I couldn't think of how to improve it. And I'm not going over all of these details, you know, I'm keeping some of them in as just like some loose kind of textural stuff here. But for the most part, I'm replacing a lot of that with some sort of sweeping general shapes here. Notice already, you know, I should probably, let's see, I'm going to save this as a new, I should save it just to, let's call this Forest Dragon 2. And then I want to bring up the first one actually so we can do a little before and after comparison here. Okay, so here's our original image. So, hang on a sec, I didn't do that right. There we go. I just want to keep this here as, you know, something I can refer to. We'll be able to look at that later and just sort of do a comparison. Yeah, here we go. All right, let's keep moving. Yeah, that's interesting, Keldar, there. That you use that the 100 layers method. Yeah, that's cool. I mean, it works for some people. I would be interested to see what would happen if you tried working in a single layer. I guess that's my only caveat. Is if that's the only way you work at this point. You know, I feel like it's useful for everyone, even if you decide not to go with that particular style, to be able to do that. But, you know, ultimately the only thing that matters is the result, right? So all right, let's get some nice blues in here to show some distance. Maybe there could even be, so like we have a choice here with this we'll call it our dragon character here. We can either go dark on light as it is right now, or could do light on dark and have some sort of... I kind of like the silhouette, actually. But we'll see. I'm just kind of messing around with some things right now. Got to think about where our lighting is coming from, though, and I think there's just going to be some kind of coming down like this. I don't know. Now that I'm imagining it, I'm kind of like seeing like some light hitting this creature here. We can play it out. We can do both, you know. We can have a silhouette with some highlights that kind of go a bit beyond the highlight range of the background there. We'll see. I do like this design here. I actually used this creature design for a sculptural piece I made a little while back with the like kind of claws on the back. I think that's really cool. All right, let's keep messing around with some of these details here. Even have some sort of stronger light beams coming through. Just creating more contrast around that focal area. I think it'd be nice to include some of that. So now you can see we have a larger amount of color diversity here. I almost want to take this silhouette as well and bring some of that nice blue tone in here. And we'll worry about that reflection in the water later. We can think about some background shapes to include here. I think overall this section just feels a bit, still feels a little bit yellow. So I'm gonna see if I can just shift the hue a little bit. Or maybe let's take that soft brush again. I want to have kind of a kind of a more pure blue here. The traditional art stream, huh? You mean like just doing like an oil painting here? I haven't had the space for that in a while. But that could be really fun. I've been meaning to actually. I mean I just don't really have it could be possible. I don't know, that's an interesting idea. Yeah, it's been a while since I broke out the oil paints. Throw in a little composition blocker over on this side. Just keep things in frame. Maybe we can do another similar thing over here. That might interrupt the flow a little bit. You know, maybe I should have separated these out onto different layers. You can still do that. Probably make creating this background a little bit easier. All right, let's just copy and paste that. We'll keep that there for now. No, so I got the iPad 2020, you know, with that in mind, with doing the plein air style work, and actually I haven't gotten around to getting out and testing that quite yet. I've been I mean, the weather here has been pretty cold, but now it's warming up a little bit. I have no excuse anymore. Yeah, I would really like to test that out, because you know, with the last one it was just a bit difficult to use outside. You know, the battery was kind of failing a little bit, so it wouldn't last long, and then you know, it didn't get the lumens really it needed to be bright enough to really see what was going on out there. So yeah, I gotta test that out. I don't know if I can do it. Well, I mean, the thing is, I can't do a stream from the iPad, really. I've kind of tried some variations with that, and it just doesn't work so well, but I'm definitely gonna be testing that. These next few days are supposed to be pretty nice, so maybe I'm gonna take the iPad out on a little hike, a little adventure outside. Nice. I don't know about this. This little stick part hanging out. Let's just erase that for now. Can do a little bit of dappled light coming through here. Ooh, light beam. Let's see what this does. Might be a bit early to put this in, but why not? Pew. That's a bit intense. Let's try it here. That's kind of cool. Still a bit there we go. It's a bit more subtle. And now the top of our canvas here is getting a little bit bright, a little bit distracting. So I'm actually gonna sort of going around that. Just tamp that down a little bit. Let's do a quick check on the before and after here. Look at that. That's pretty good. Although I think this area back here is just, it's a little too saturated. It's grabbing some attention here. Oh yeah, notice that, you know, with these trees back here, I'm giving them a bit of a perspective. I'm leaning them in a little bit. Even have one kind of going over our light source here. Maybe now it's time to break out some textured brushes here. Actually, before I do that, I'm gonna grab some of this sky color, and I want to have some sort of ambient light showing on some of these surfaces. And that's really going to unify this whole piece. Maybe we can introduce some other sort of subtle green kind of shadow colors here. Sort of a cooler, more saturated version that we can only really see in the foreground. It's just gonna give us a little bit of interest here, a little bit of color diversity. I'm probably not gonna use it right here because that's really distracting, but yeah, just to create a little bit of variety. Maybe we'll have some kind of dark foreground shape here. Maybe not. Just gonna keep it simple. Keep the flow going, you know? Like at this point, I'm still keeping things real loose. Even stretch this perspective line down here even further. Really exaggerate that. Kind of reaching that point where the two layers are meeting, so I have to be careful about how I use this mixer brush here. Oh yeah, nice. It's starting to tie together real nicely here. Getting some good color diversity. Getting some of that ambient light. Oh, I love that color. I want to use it everywhere. Of course, that would sort of defeat the point, but loving those shapes. Maybe. Let's try something here. I'm going to put it on a new layer just because I'm not sure if this is going to work out, but it'd be cool to have some sort of the tops of some trees kind of hanging out. Let's try something like that. That's kind of cool. Maybe something else on the other side. sort of increasing the scope of our perspective here. I'm just creating some general shapes here too. I'm not too worried about details at this point. I don't know. It's kind of cool. I don't want it to be too distracting up here towards the top, but if we keep these shapes simple, this can actually work. I kind of like it. Of course, I said I would keep these shapes simple, and I have not done that. But you know, we can reduce their impact, their attractiveness by lowering the contrast too. Let's just drop that down to a saturated lighter blue here. I'll make them a bit less oh yeah, that's pretty cool. I like that blue. I want to use it elsewhere as well. It's just very nice and pure. Maybe even with this silhouette here. Give it a nice... Ah, that's sweet. This reminds me of Princess Mononoke. Ah, love that film. Love the artwork. The Ghibli studio. Very similar. I think that's actually where I originally drew inspiration for this scene, was that part where the forest spirit is just sort of appears and goes down and is drinking water. Oh, that reminds me, I could create some like dappled sunlight here and there. I wonder if that would work. Let's just try some things here. again, I'm gonna create a new layer. I guess that's one of the things I do use layers for quite often, is just like experimenting, you know? If there's something I want to try out that I'm not totally sure about, because I actually don't keep a lot of history layers on. Ooh, with the smudge, that actually looks pretty nice. Wonder if it would work. I don't know. Might overcomplicate things a little bit. Maybe it could be done a bit more sparingly here. Let's actually set this layer to linear dodge. Let's try this again. You can use a darker color here. I'm not sure about that. Well, I'm gonna think on it for a minute here. I'm actually gonna take a quick 3-minute break here, and then we're gonna dive right back into this painting and get it to a nice finished state here. So don't go anywhere. I'll be right back. Okay, we are back after a wonderful epic music interlude there. Now, I've brought up a reference board here. I probably should have brought this up earlier. But there's some nice, some great forest pictures here. And you know what? Maybe we can even do some photo texturing here. I'm just kind of going through and checking to see if these are high res enough. We'll see. It'd be kind of cool. But I'm just going to pull those over to the side here. And let's see. What we got here in the comments? Talking about filters, masks. Keldar is saying, sometimes I use so many filters, masks, etc. I feel more like a photo compositor than a digital painter. I start to wonder where the line is between the two. Well, there is no line. There's definitely, you know, as a digital painter, you can use elements of both. We might even dive into a little of that here. Wurzel is saying, very nice flow to the picture. I still think you could get rid of at least a centimeter off the foreground. And, you know, it's an interesting observation. I am actually going to disagree with you there. I think a lot of this foreground is really, like I was saying before, it's really helping to frame all the important elements in this picture. And you know, if I cut off this, you know, this bottom section here, if we see here, it's just we're not going to get quite as much of that big perspective pattern here, which I really like to create some more dynamic depth and focus in my paintings. Of course, there's always an individual preference, but that's generally how I like to do things. I'm actually going to introduce a little bit more color variety into this this water pattern here. Actually, maybe a little bit of start to include some general reflections of the in the water here. Maybe a little bit of that kind of foamy action we see on the edges sometimes. And what this whole piece needs now is a bit more texture. So now it's kind of, you know, it's up to, I got to decide whether I want to, you know, use some traditional texturing like I'm doing here, or maybe use a little bit of photo texturing, or a little bit of both even. Using the smudge tool a little bit here as well. This music is too much. I gotta update my my playlist here. Actually, let's take this. Let's just move it down a notch here. probably create a few, I think in the original image here, I had some rocks and stuff, and oh my god, look at that difference. I had some rocks and stuff in the foreground here. So I think that's kind of a fun thing to do. So we can do a little of that. Have some flowiness around those. Maybe even a little bit of reflected light here on the surface. Actually, maybe you know, towards the foreground, we're gonna be able to see actually a little bit through this river. It's gonna get a little bit transparent as we're looking down. So I'll try to simulate some of that effect here. We can use our pointy eraser to give it more of a, or not our eraser actually. Let's use our ink lines brush. We'll give it a little bit more of a watery texture here. Now all of that is just there's some nice texture there, but I've kind of made that area a bit dense, a bit complicated here. So it's actually I'm just gonna kind of tone all this down with a soft brush here, so it's not drawing too much attention. And actually, I'm not a big fan of this rock here. It's just sort of, we can make that a little bit less present there. create some more hard edges around here too. I've actually really been liking using the round brush for things recently, because it really forces you to sort of make some decisions, you know. Just trying out some things with the multiply brush here. Alright, let's bring in my references here again. Maybe we can grab some textures here, some photo textures, because we don't do that too much here. And I think that would be pretty nice. This isn't the highest resolution texture here, but it'll do for now. Alright, let's I'm actually gonna adjust the perspective a little bit. Warp it out. Let's adjust the oh, let's see what we can, maybe we can set it as it's kind of interesting. Soft light is usually a pretty good bet. Let's give that a whirl. I think we can just desaturate this a little bit. Drop the opacity maybe. Actually, a lot of textures in here that we can use potentially. So let's just start a little mask layer here. See, there's some nice stuff in the background as well. Overall, maybe we can bring our levels up a little bit. Or maybe we just need to use two different versions of this, one for the background and one for the foreground. Let's just focus on the foreground for the minute. There's some nice rock things going on here. I don't want to change too much with how things already are here in terms of terms of hue and overall color here, I'm actually going to take the saturation down a little bit. We can set this to darken, actually. I really only want to get those shadow shapes out of there. Maybe we can drop the opacity a little bit. That's starting to blend in a little bit better. And we can just kind of see where it fits in, if it fits in. Alright, well, that's a start. Just copy and paste that. That's kind of cool. All right, let's go back to this other one we were going to use for the background here. There's just some nice sort of tree shapes in there. Let's just put that on normal for a second. Clear that layer mask. Okay, let's put that back on. Layer dodge might work. I make things a little bit bright though. Let's go back to soft light and let's just take out the shadows here. Increase the saturation a little bit. Shift it over. It's a subtle difference, but just gives it a little bit more character. Let's just take this whole thing and align it with the perspective we set up before. Oh, thank you, Jose. I definitely should save here. What would I do without you? Probably, probably lose a lot of work. There's just this one value here along the center that I want to, a dark tone along the stump. I want to get rid of that. Man, it's actually, haven't done any photo texturing in a while. This is pretty fun, actually. Erase that little nub there. Alright. Let's go back to this one. I think that was the one. Yeah, we just put that down. I'm going to erase out some of this other stuff down here. It's just a little bit high saturation. I want to keep the silhouette of these trees as well. I do like how that background is looking though. Let's compare. It's just a little bit more interesting. There's a bit more saturation and variety there. And you know, we can always go back in later and just you know, tweak things a little bit, paint over them. That's the thing, once you put the photo textures down, it's not like you have to keep them. You can merge them down and where am I getting this big dark spot here? That's where things start to get a little complicated. You're like, all right, where's this where's this coming from? All right, there it is. Let's get rid of that. Create a nice solid silhouette here. I'm actually painting under the photo layer here. Just creating a little bit of variation in these shapes. Actually, you can even paint in the photo layer. You know, if you want to switch things up a little bit, and sort of lose some of those, a little bit of that crispiness. think I want to give this section a little bit more of a blue tint like we see in some of the other distant areas, because it just looks a little bit high contrast. So I'm gonna dial that up a little bit, maybe a little on the underside as well. And yeah, some of this texture isn't really doing anything for us. Sometimes you gotta be real sparing with how you use these things. Let's bring in some other textures here. Yeah, we can just keep using the same one, actually. I usually just use the darken mode here because that's just going to help create some shadow content. Honestly, though, not sure how necessary this is. Let's try screen mode here. Sometimes you just gotta mess around with, with different modes, different opacity levels. Sometimes it's just a matter of putting it on normal and then adjusting the levels, getting the color balance right. That looks pretty good. Let's see where this is going to get us. Oh, that looks pretty nice. Although I'm losing those nice shapes I created before. I mean, that's the thing with photo texturing. You do lose a little bit of that control. That's a little bit better. If we just drop those highlights a little bit. Switch up the color balance. Let's see if we can find a nice tree. This is actually a photo I took myself. I'm thinking maybe we can use this tree texture here. If it's crisp enough, that's pretty good. We can actually take this. Whoops. Stretch it out. There we go. Something like that. Maybe drop the, bring the shadows up a little bit. Very subtle. Makes a little bit of a difference there. Alright, I'm probably at the point where I can do a little painting over this. You know, sometimes you just have to kind of work back and forth between the photos and the painting process. So I'm actually... There's a fun little shortcut I actually just learned. We can do... Is it Control-Alt-Shift-E? Yes. It actually copies everything onto a new layer. Basically copies the whole canvas. There's actually a similar feature in Procreate, but I didn't realize there was actually a Photoshop shortcut for it as well. So this is all in one layer now, and I'm just going to kind of go through in this last, I don't know, 20-30 minutes here. We're just going to kind of, you know, shape this up and get things looking real nice here. Sort of start to blend some of these textures in a little bit too. Sometimes they can really stick out, you know. So this is kind of like an intermediary strategy where we're not actually photo bashing, we're just kind of incorporating some of those textures in there, and then we can, you know, we can sort of manipulate those and paint over them and sort of incorporate them into our painting. I'm actually going to copy and paste this layer here, or this section, and sort of use that. You know, these are just some fun kind of digital tricks you can use. And then switching back to the mixer brush to paint this out. Create a little bit of of splashiness here. And then, you know, there's some of these crisp sort of hard edges here and there as well that we can sort of tease those out. Create some nice line work in here as well. Yeah, it's an awesome shortcut. I actually learned that from the from the workshop with Tyler Edlin. He did this at like, you know, halfway through his painting, and I was like, whoa. I had no idea. Sometimes you learn some of those Photoshop shortcuts where you're just like, it just kind of blows your mind. Yeah, no, before I was always just like doing you know, yeah, copying all the layers, merging them together, and so on. So that's a very useful shortcut. Probably on the verge of flipping this canvas a bit too much. I should probably give that a little bit of a break there, just so I don't totally lose the effect. As you know, that can happen. I guess, you know, the funny thing is I actually have not, ordinarily I would be spending a lot of time working on this focal point here. I guess that's something that needs to be said as well, is that, you know, you don't need to be, just because your focal point is, you know, well silhouetted, doesn't mean you necessarily need to, or like has some sharp detail. It doesn't mean you need to spend a lot of time working on it. And you know, sometimes even, you know, adding a whole bunch of detail here can really kind of distract the viewer, especially because, you know, if we consider this is the scale we're going to be looking at it from. If we go in, you know, zoom in here and start making a whole bunch of little details there, it might be a little bit sort of lost, and actually could even potentially take away from the silhouette a little bit. But I'm gonna try just giving some slight indications of, you know, that ambient skylight here, just to help sort of sculpt this form, give it a little bit of three-dimensionality here. And that's just gonna help it to read nicely. Give it a little bit more interest. Ultimately, we probably don't need to include a whole lot more than this. Maybe even, this might be pushing it a little bit, but let's try it out. Even do a little bit of highlights here. maybe not back here, but towards the front, that kind of works. We can actually create some indications of that, some of that light hitting the environment around here as well. Whoa. Could probably just go in here with a linear dodge brush, kind of unify some of the colors we're seeing here. Don't want to overdo it. I think I actually might want to dial back some of this detailing on the silhouette, because I think we're losing a bit of the silhouette. Maybe we can give it like a bit of an edge here. I don't know. Again, I think that's just sort of pulling attention away. But let's solidify the shapes we have here. Maybe we can create a little reflection. That's always fun. So let's try that. Let's go straight across. Copy, paste, flip it. Yeah, it's more of like a still lake kind of effect, but let's shape it out first. And then we can blur that out. Let's try that. Filter, blur, motion blur. Oh, that's on the mask layer. Hang on. Filter, blur, motion blur. I'm just checking. There's a strange conversation happening in the chat here. Like a left-handed undead octopus. You know what? I'm not even gonna try to figure this one out. All right, here's a little something. Maybe we could do like a like a noise effect here. Nah. We can just go in and do a little bit of manual painting here. Probably should have lightened that up a little bit. Let's just give that a little bit more lightness. Then we can merge this all together like that. That's gonna look nice. Probably lighten that up just a bit so it's not too distracting here. There we go. All right, let's grab that. I want to get a nice nice border on this water here. I can go in and just have some fun embellishing these textures, losing them here and there. They don't all need to be super crisp. I think that's where, like, being able and knowing how to paint traditionally is really going to serve you well, even if your ultimate goal is to do more photo bashing kind of stuff. Because even once you get those photo textures down, there's still going to be a lot of tweaking to do, and it's useful to be able to paint over them and incorporate them into your painting that way. Versus just relying on, getting them in the right place with the right layer mode. can even throw in some little oh, hey, welcome, Nick. Got you able to make the tail end of things here. I did not do the the battle, the epic battle scene. I'm gonna save that for future stream. I would like to give that a try. I would like to, you know, I bet I could get some like that out in a couple hours. But for today's stream, I wanted to dig something up and see if I could improve it a little bit. Take it into that final detail phase. So far, it's been pretty fun. Oh, you know, there's one brush here that actually, there's a lot of brushes here I could have been using. But it's one I really like to use in this context, which is... Where is it? Brush dabs. I love the brush dabs brush. Especially for this kind of, like... This kind of scene, you know, with a lot of mossy stuff, a lot of rocks. It's really useful for that. You can always go in afterwards and just sort of smooth some of this out. It's a lot of fun. Encourage you to try it if you haven't already. To download the brush pack I have in the description below. If you guys haven't checked it out, it has all of these brushes that I've used today, and it's a lot of fun. Includes this one, which is one of my personal favorites. See you, Jose. I'll catch you on the next stream. Just want to create a little bit more three-dimensionality around these roots here. Give them some nice form, some nice shape. I mean, this is really where this is where a lot of the time can get sucked away here, is in this detail phase, which is why I usually don't get to this, in my live streams, because, as I often say, the most important elements of your image are going to be, put down within the first hour, maybe 2 hours, if you're, if there's some decision making that needs to be made, but otherwise the otherwise, I mean, that's why that's really how you can put in like 10-15 hours into a piece. It's just like little stuff like this. It just takes a lot of time. It doesn't make a huge difference in terms of the quality of, or the overall construction of your piece, but it is really, really important to have a few sort of well-refined pieces like this. And it's up to your preference too. If you really like going through this detail phase, it can be a really meditative process. You can really kind of lose yourself in it. Let's see. You want to see a before and after here? Yeah, let me just get a quick few notes in about this structure here, and then we can see the old version, right? Because I don't think Nick has seen the original yet. I dug this up from an old PSD file of something I made a while ago. So this is the new version. This is the old one. I brought it out a little bit. Originally, you can see where the old cropping is there. So yeah, quite a difference, I would say. And I think this still needs a bit of work. I think overall this is just a bit too chaotic, and I would like to develop this focal area a little bit more. Maybe we can increase the contrast a little bit around here. Just going with some white. That's gonna help us out. Yeah, because that's kind of how it was before I edited the photos, so. It looks a little bit artificial, but. And then, what else? Yeah, I think around some of these edges we can probably simplify a lot of this. Again, that's the danger with the detailing phase is sometimes you can do more damage than actually benefiting the piece, and that's just a reality of it. That's what I ran into when I started this piece, several years ago. I got into detailing over on this side here, and I just I totally lost it. I lost what the point of this whole painting was, and I just stopped. So you can see a lot of this is undeveloped. I had intended to bring everything up to this level of detail, but I'm glad I didn't, actually, because that was, as you can see, I've really simplified this whole area over here, and I think the whole piece is better off for it. But of course, I think there's still a lot of noise happening here. I think a lot of the simple shapes I introduced at the beginning of this process could be reinforced a little bit more and preserved a little bit better. And it's a lot of back and forth with the texturing. It's not always everything you put down isn't always gonna benefit your painting, but it's good to keep an eye on that navigator, and make sure that you're not sort of losing your overall feel that you want with the piece. I'm just gonna add a little bit more bits of dappled light in here, because that's kind of a nice effect. Some light coming in through the canopy there. And yeah, I'm not sure what happened with this silhouette here. Let's just sharpen that up a little bit. I guess I could actually, that's probably the one part of this that was really working well. I really liked that. Maybe we can try to bring this back. I think we lost that a little bit with our mad dash to change everything else. Let's see if we can bring this back a little bit. Copy, paste. Yeah, there's some nice details here. Got a little bit lost. It's a good thing I still have this. Of course, the colors were pretty awful. So let's change that. Okay. And then we can go in behind that. Just going to copy and paste this in case we really screw this up, but just grab our soft brush and go behind it. Really solidify that silhouette. That looks nice. And you can erase away some of that. Some of the other stuff here. We can even touch this up just a little bit. You know, this is all very... A lot of this we probably won't even be able to see from, you know, the overall painting scale, but just, this is more for me, just knowing that these edges are a little bit more touched up here. Nice. And I would say maybe, I don't know, maybe this was a mistake before, but we can just include a few spots where the light is hitting there. Maybe not even that bright. Just tone that down a little bit. And anything else? I think actually I just want to once again bring this lightness up a little bit and that saturation. We can do a little bit of a, let's see the difference there. Yeah, oh, that's much cleaner, much better. So, let's see, one more thing I want to do here is just do a quick vignette of the edges here. Get a little bit darker. Sort of solidify our focus. I think overall I would love to see actually a few more kind of warm tones in here, but you know, that's something I can maybe get to later. I'm just gonna merge these down here. Maybe we can do a quick color balance, see if we can inject a little more warmth in here. And those mid-tones. Our shadows down. Nah, just leave it as is. Would like to bump up the saturation a bit though, especially because, like I've said before, I know the monitor I'm working on now it's a little bit it's very high saturation. It's a very good quality monitor, but I have to take that into account when I'm working on stuff, because other monitors won't pick that up. It'll look kind of desaturated. Alright, looks like we've got a pretty good, nice full value range here. I've tweaked the color balance a little bit to warm it up, just a touch. Actually, I'll probably do that a little bit more. Probably something I should have been doing as I was painting, but anyway, we can see a little before and after here. I think it's quite an improvement. Maybe we can even can put them next to each other here. Maybe quickly go over. Oops. Oh, that's another piece I've been meaning to wrap up. I just have it here. That was another one I kind of found it in my old projects folder, and I've been meaning to wrap that one up. But let's go to view or window, arrange. Let's do to up horizontal. There we go. So we have our before on the top, our after on the bottom, and so I've successfully proved to myself that I think I have improved a little bit since I first created that concept, but also, you know, I hope you guys have learned a little bit about how you can take a piece from that sort of that mid-range sort of underpainting, partially developed face to something a little bit more detailed, a little bit more textured, and also something that has a little bit more life in it. If you're bringing up an old piece, you know, increasing that color diversity and having a little bit more focus, giving it a little bit more perspective, and sort of reducing some of those overall, you know, like distracting details around the borders. All right, well, thank you all for joining me today. It's been a pleasure. And, you know, once again, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. Check out the links I have below to my mentorship program and my brush pack as well, and the Discord channel. If you would like to sort of chat with some other artists about, you know, stuff like this, that's always running. That's always a lot of fun. So thank you all for joining me once again, and I will catch you next week. Have a good one.